and welcome to Tech Stories. Today, we're going to peel back the layers, look past the screen, and get into the secret story of maybe the most important piece of software you own, your phone's operating system. I mean, what gives it that unique personality, right? The flow, the little quirks. It's not just the hardware, and it's not just the apps you've downloaded. It's something much deeper. And that's where we're going today. We're exploring that invisible force that shapes, pretty much your entire digital life, the operating system. We're going to demystify this thing and really chart its incredible journey from just a simple utility to, well, the very soul of your device. Okay, so here's the game plan. We'll start with how the OS evolved. Then we'll break that down into 4 key phases. After that, we'll look at how we even benchmark the best ones today using something called the PEP framework. We'll figure out what's really driving a modern OS, and finally, look at what all this means for the future of that phone in your pocket.
So the story of the smartphone OS, it's really all about this transformation, this evolution from just a basic functional tool, something to make the phone work, into the absolute core, the defining part of a brand's identity.
And you can really break this whole history down into 4 distinct eras. Each one was a pretty dramatic shift that, either built upon or in a lot of cases completely destroyed what came before it. So our journey kicks off before 2007 in what we call the RTOS era. Then, of course, after 2007, everything changes with the arrival of the iOS and Android duopoly. That led us into the 2010s, the age of skins, which has now evolved into what we have today, the super integrated custom OS. So let's talk about phase 1, the old guard. Think about the giants back then. Symbian on all those Nokia phones, BlackBerry OS, Windows Mobile. These systems were absolute masters of what they did, right? Perfectly built for physical keyboards, little trackballs. But wow, their downfall was fast. They just couldn't pivot to a multi-touch world. And the real killer? They didn't have those centralized app stores that were about to become everything. And that brings us to phase 2. This slide is great because it shows the 2 totally different game plans that created the duopoly we still live in today. You had Apple's iOS on one side, just winning by controlling everything, the hardware, the software, to create this seamless, super secure experience. And then you had Android, which won with the exact opposite strategy, openness. It let any manufacturer jump in, creating this huge network effect and an app ecosystem that was just unbeatable. Okay, so once Android was everywhere, manufacturers had a new problem. How do you stand out in a sea of identical-looking phones? Well, that kicked off phase 3, the rise of skins. Think of things like Xiaomi's MIUI or Vivo's Fun Touch. They were basically these visual layers that brands would slap on top of stock Android to create a unique look, toss in some custom features, and yeah, even make a little money with pre-installed apps. And that brings us right up to today, phase 4. And it's so much more than just a skin anymore. We're deep in the era of the custom OS. You've got brands like Samsung with its One UI and Xiaomi with HyperOS. And they're building these incredibly deep, complex layers on top of Android. They're not just changing the wallpaper, they're defining the entire user experience to build a really powerful, unique brand identity. So, with all these super complex custom systems out there, how in the world do you even start to compare them? Well, it turns out a new framework has popped up to do just that. And that's the PEP framework. It's a really simple but powerful way to score and understand a modern OS. It all comes down to 3 key pillars. P is for performance. How fast and smooth is it? E is for experience, the design, the unique features, the overall vibe. And that final P stands for personalization. How much can you really tweak it and make it your own? So who's winning the PEP game? Well, according to this index, Samsung's One UI gets a perfect score of 1,000, and that's because it strikes this amazing balance across all 3 pillars, which makes it appeal to a ton of different users. But right on its heels is Vivo's Origin OS, which scores super high for its really unique design that kind of blends beauty with pure utility. And if you just look at pure performance, this chart tells the whole story. The competition for raw speed has gotten so intense, it's basically a dead heat. You see top systems like One UI, Origin OS, and HyperOS all hitting a perfect score. It just goes to show you how ridiculously optimized our modern phones have become. And you know what? It's pretty much the same story when you look at personalization. Even iOS, which was famously locked down for years, now gets a perfect score right alongside its Android competitors. Having deep control over how your phone looks and feels isn't a bonus feature anymore. It's an absolute must-have.
Okay, so if all the top systems are maxing out their scores on performance and personalization, what's left to compete on? This is the crucial point, right? The battle has moved on. We're fighting on completely new fronts now.
The new rules of the game are pretty clear. First off, AI isn't a feature anymore, it's the baseline. Smart performance, AI tools for writing, that's just expected now. Second, the app gap is totally over. The new battle is the ecosystem. How well does your phone play with your computer, your watch, your tablet? Third, generative AI is changing personalization, letting you literally create your own wallpapers and themes from scratch. And finally, brands are digging in on their unique selling points, those distinct gestures, special fonts, and design languages that carve out their own identity. So, what does all this mean for the future of that little device in your pocket? Well, the foundation of the modern OS seems pretty set in stone, but a completely new race that's just getting started.
This quote right here just nails it. It really captures the state of play perfectly. The core of iOS and Android, they're entrenched. The real innovation, the real fight, is happening in those custom layers that get built on top. It's become this race of rapid-fire feature updates and crafting sharper identities, all on top of a shared, stable foundation. And all of this leaves us with one last question, and this one's for you. As your phone's OS becomes less of a simple tool and more of its true identity, what do you value most? Is it the raw, blistering performance, a beautifully crafted, seamless experience? Or is it that infinite freedom to make it 100% uniquely yours? The answer to that is probably going to shape the next chapter of this incredible story. Thanks for joining me.